We acknowledge that the land on which we live, gather, exchange ideas, and share our past, present, and future is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat people. My name is Alice. I'm the Community Program Coordinator over at the Brockville Museum, and thank you for tuning into this episode of Stories from the Stones. Now, I'm standing behind a headstone of a man who contributed to the development of Brockville's cemeteries, and this fellow was named Lancelot deCarle, which is a fantastic name. He was born in 1825 over in England, and in his youth he apprenticed to be a stone cutter with his uncle Benjamin. Now, he emigrated to Canada in 1853 and took up work working for local monument businesses in Canada West and Kingston. Eventually he would settle in Brockville, and he opened the Brockville Cemetery and Memorial Works in 1861. Now, the business was located out on Buell Street, but then shortly thereafter, about 10 years later, he decided to move his business closer to the Brockville cemeteries and actually took up residence on just off the cemetery grounds. So he and his two sons, Leopold and Charles, contributed to the development of the Brockville cemeteries by creating many monuments that you see out if you go for a walk in this area. So it was quite a large undertaking to create a headstone and an epitaph, and Lancelot actually wrote that it would take him about a week to actually chisel an epitaph into a headstone. So you can imagine the time and dedication that it took. Now, sometimes he would do custom work for grieving families, but oftentimes what he would have would be a large book with appropriate iconography and symbols, and also often use epitaphs that families could choose from if they wish to request his services. So between the sort of years of the 1870s and 1880s, he started to distance himself more from the cemetery memorial works, fell under the purview of his two sons, and eventually after he passed, his sons would sell the business off to the Grant family, and then that business would also change hands at a later date. But they are actually still in operation, one of these long-standing Brockville businesses, and they're actually opposite the Albert Gilmore Memorial Chapel, so across on the south side of Highway 2. If you ever want to take a little walk through the Brockville cemeteries, you can come across a lot of deCarle's work. You'll notice it if you look at the actual headstone dead on, you'll see that there is the name deCarle on the bottom right corner, and usually the place of manufacture or creation, Brockville, Ontario. So thank you very much for tuning into this episode of Stories from the Stones.